be really helpful if you have some clear wall space. A closed door will do as well. Just some place where you can put your hands at the wall and put your weight into your hands. So I don't know if you need to clear space or shut a door or whatever, but that will be helpful. Also, a strap or some kind of tie will be helpful today. Something that you can make a loop of about that size. So it could be, yeah, it could be just about anything. A belt would even work. Just something like this. And then, as always, a blanket is helpful. And a couple of blocks might come in helpful, though today you may not need them. But it's always nice to have them around just in case. All right, I will go ahead and bring us in. Welcome back. It's so lovely to see you guys for this beautiful Wednesday morning YogaX practice. It's lovely to have sort of people who are coming regularly and to start to recognize faces, even in the virtual world. I feel very connected to you, and I'm very grateful to have you. I apologize for having to miss so suddenly and unexpectedly last week. I hope you had a wonderful class if you came with Heather. I'm continuing today with our theme for July of cultivating joy, the fourth of the 4 Brahma viharas, or wise emotions, that we've been talking about over the last few months. And want to sort of reconnect us to what this kind of joy really is. This is the kind of joy that is all about a deep appreciation for what's present inside of you, what's present in your life. It's a joy that arises out of gratitude. It's also a joy that arises on behalf of other people. So it's being joyful for the good things that happen in other people's lives as well. And so my favorite translation, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, is altruistic joy. You'll also see empathic joy or sympathetic joy, but my favorite really these days is altruistic joy, because it really is, if you look at the research literature, joy tends to arise out of providing service, out of giving, out of being kind, out of being appreciative and grateful. And the other piece that's sort of integral to joy is integrity, balance, stability within yourself. And so today our practice is really dedicated to creating sort of a physical sense of stability, an emotional sense of stability, and a stable mind through creating focus, creating integrity, and creating purpose, and just physical strength. So it'll be a bit of a strength building practice, so hang in there. And hopefully some joy will spontaneously arise as we practice together today. So we will actually take our opening breathing in combination with our warm-up. We'll warm up first and then do the breath, because the breath that we will breathe together today is called breath of joy. And it's better when you're just a little bit warmed up already in the body. So we'll come to standing. All right, we'll start with just a little bit of a flow to warm up our spine, and by now you've probably caught on to the fact that that's something I tend to do with my practices, is to just bring you into a little bit of expansiveness by breathing the arms up and Bringing the arms down, inhaling as you rise and exhaling as you lower. And today, as you do this, really feel the roots through your feet into the earth to ground yourself, to create a very stable base. And then as you expand the arms upward with the inhalation, really feel that sense of energy rising and moving through your body, based in that very stable and firm foundation. The next time your hands are up and overhead and you can't see it on my screen, clasp your left wrist with your right hand, and then we'll bend to the right, keeping the heart nice and open, continuing to ground through the feet, and then finding that expansiveness through the hands as they reach to the right. Take a breath or two here. And then with your next inhalation, rise to center. Switch the interlay or the holding of your hands. I'll show it this way. Left hand now clasping the right wrist. And then with your exhalation, bend to the left. And this doesn't have to be a huge side bend. It really is just an awakening of the spine. This is called lateral flexion for those of you who are yoga teachers in training. And it's one of the 6 movements of the spine, or really it's 2 of them. Lateral flexion to the right and lateral flexion to the left. And we'll do it again to the right. And as you're doing this the second time, feel again the grounding through the feet. And then with your next inhalation, as you rise to center, really feel the expansiveness in your body. Let yourself be with that for a full breath, creating length in the spine, and then clasp the left wrist and exhale to the other side, keeping that right side body open and keeping the feet grounded and stable. And then rise up, and with an exhalation, bring the arms down. From here, I'm going to come down a little bit so you can see me. You don't have to do this. You can stay standing. I'll just add a little work here for me. We'll bring the arms into goal post. And of course, you can squat if you want with me to bring a little heat into the legs. We'll inhale and we'll open the heart into a little cow, standing cow. And then we'll exhale and round forward into a standing cat. And we'll take this really beautiful movement a few times. So this is the 3rd and 4th movement of the spine flexion. When you come forward, and extension. When you come back into cat. And all the while, especially if you're in a squat, stay very grounded through the feet. Find your stability, and then notice if there is instability, if you can create more balance by drawing the pelvic floor up and in, by drawing the belly button toward the spine, and by really noticing the firming of your core muscles as you breathe out when you come into cat. We'll take about 3 or 4 more of these, depending on your breath cycle. Not doing this in any synchronized way with one another, only synchronized with our own breath. And after your next cat, come back to mountain pose, and we'll all meet there again. The 5th and 6th movement of the spine is twisting to the right and twisting to the left. And so we will start this with something called knocking on the doors of life. I hope you can see me well enough that you can see this, but it's a slight bend in the knees just to take the hamstrings out of the equation, and then really ground through your feet. And then you'll turn to the right, and as you do so, you'll lightly tap on your chest with the left hand and on your adrenals on the left side with your right hand. And then you'll switch sides like this. It's a very gentle twist, switching sides right and left with the breath. And you can go as slow or as quickly as you would like. There's no rule on this. It's a nice, energizing little flow. It wakes up the spine, it wakes up your adrenal glands. And we'll do this maybe 4 or 5 more times, depending on your speed. And then if you were going rapidly, you might slow it down. And then just let the arms sort of swing by your side as you finally return to mountain pose. Beautiful. From here, we will come into breath of joy as our final warm-up and also our shared breathing practice. And if you've never done it, you might want to watch me do it, and I will probably have to turn sideways a little bit so I don't hit my walls here. I'm kind of in a narrow spot so that you can see me. But the way breath of joy unfolds is with 3 rapid inhalations and then 1 really big exhalation. And you have a choice of breathing out through the nose or the mouth. It's totally up to you and what feels best in your body. And there's an arm movement associated with it, and this is why I'm kind of worried about my walls here. And you'll come into that same little mild squat that we were in when we were knocking on the doors of life. And so I'll show it, and then you can just come in with me whenever you feel like, oh yeah, I've got the rhythm. So it's so arms forward, arms to the side, arms forward and down.
You look good.
Three more. 2 more. And after your last one, bring your hands to your heart in mountain pose. If you feel stable enough, close your eyes and feel your own heartbeat. It's quite likely that your body will feel rather energized at the moment. And so notice what this feels like from the inside out. And you might notice that as you listen to the signals from your body in response to this breath of joy, that the body knows how to re-regulate itself on its own. As your breathing calms again, maybe you can start to feel your heartbeat slowing again. And just invite your nervous system to resettle, to ground itself, to return to stability. And perhaps notice what kind of affect is associated with this particular physical way of expressing joy. Is there affect that's pleasant or maybe unpleasant for you? What's your level of arousal? this kind of appraisal, this kind of affect of pleasant versus unpleasant, or hyper versus hypoarousal, or being right at the center of neutrality, is what we do almost nonstop in our lives in response to physical sensations that arrive in your brain through interoception, through your ability to sense yourself from the inside out. And if your eyes were closed, gently begin to open them. Oh, we forgot to set our intention here, so reclose the eyes if you want, or you can keep them open as you invite an intention to emerge from this place of having been very active and having watched the body recalibrate itself. Take a breath in to seal that intention into your heart. And release a breath to set that intention free into your world. And then if you reclose them, open the eyes, lift your focus, and release your hands. All right, how's everybody doing? Good? All right, great. So a very active sort of warm-up that hopefully had some fun associated with it for you. So from here, we'll inhale the arms up. And then as we exhale, we'll come into a very gentle forward fold, folding at our hip joint. And this is where you might want to have your blocks if you still have some morning stiffness in your tissues. I certainly am a lot stiffer in the morning than later in the day. So the warm-up helped. And then come into a half lift. And again, you can do this on your blocks. You can also do your half lift with your hands at your shins. And the definition of a half lift is that you have a 90-degree angle at the hip joint. So I'll show this from the side. So we're not really looking for a full forward fold here. We're actually looking for something in the middle between full extension and full flexion in the hip joint. And then if you feel stable enough, lift your toes here and feel the engagement that creates in your leg muscles. You might notice that your kneecaps almost naturally draw toward your hips and create stability in the thighs. And then very deliberately draw your pelvic floor into the body. And then draw the navel toward the spine. Imagine that you have a corset, not that that's a beautiful imagery, but and draw your core muscles in and your hip bones toward each other. Now the hip bones won't actually move anywhere, but really feel that deep engagement in your core muscles as you're holding this lift against gravity. It might even help to squeeze the glutes here. And just notice your own strength when you draw your pelvic floor in, when you draw your belly muscles into the action here. And then from that strength, let go of the shins or the blocks and let the arms swing a little bit. Just side to side. Yeah, beautiful, guys. And see how this challenges your capacity to stay stable at your core and recalibrate. Did the pelvic floor drop out? Can you re-engage the pelvic floor? Can you re-engage the navel or the spine? And then with your next inhalation, we'll reverse swan dive to standing. Hold the arms overhead for a moment. If your toes were still lifted, mine still were, you can release them down. And then notice if you can create additional stability in your usual mountain pose through that same engagement, through the pelvic floor rising up, the belly drawing in, your hip bones imaginarily drawing toward each other, sort of corset-like. Sometimes the imagery too is like zipping up a zipper to really draw those core muscles in. They're going to be really important to you today. So that engagement, that stability in your physical being is what we're after. And then with an out breath, you can release your arms down. And find a wall or a door or some place where you can place your hands at something that won't move away. You could even use a bookshelf, like I have a bookshelf here, I could use this, but I will use the wall. I think you can see me okay. And then you have to estimate about a leg's length distance from the wall, maybe a little bit more. You'll sort of see once we come into the pose. We're going to take a down dog at the wall. And so you can start by bringing the hands to the wall anywhere. And then take that same forward fold in the hip joint that we did standing in the center of your mat. And slide the hands down enough on the wall that they're in line with your hips. And you know, the fun thing is you guys are on video, so you can look at your video and see if you're lined up. It's like not a luxury we have very often in yoga class, right? Thank goodness in a way, right? I'm not really a fan of mirrors in yoga, but you have the video so you can check. And from here, engage the core in the same way that you did in your forward fold. It's almost easier now because you have the hands that are holding part of your weight against gravity, but find that stability anyway. And then once you are in this really nice 90-degree angle in this down dog at the wall, think about creating length in the spine by pressing the hands into the wall and pulling the hips away from the wall. Now, there is a temptation when you get kind of taffy-like this to let the belly drop, but today we really want to keep the belly engaged. And so draw that navel toward the spine and just feel how this reverberates through your body. Once you've restabilized the core, draw your attention to your shoulder girdle and just notice what's happening there. So one thing that sometimes just spontaneously occurs here is that you kind of collapse through the shoulders. It's almost like you're making a little hammock with your back. I'm showing this on the screen, kind of exaggerating that a little bit. We don't want that. We want the shoulders integrated. And so I invite you here to experiment with pressing the hands into the wall and letting that movement bring the scapulae down your back and maybe toward each other. You can also imagine your hands or your arms really moving toward each other. So bringing a little bit of adduction into the arm. It's isometric, you're not going to see it from the outside. And just notice how much stability that creates in your shoulder girdle. And then step 1 foot forward. Come out of the pose, roll out your shoulders. And we will do this again because this will be fairly key to some of the later postures we'll do. So just make some shoulder circles and really become aware of how much mobility you have in the shoulders. The shoulder joint is a very mobile joint, but there are also ways to create stability. And today we're really interested in creating stability in that joint. And so we'll do this down dog at the wall yet again. So by now you might have a better sense of where your feet need to start out. And then you bring yourself to your wall and down into your wall dog. And then do the same sort of assembly as before. Maybe start by lifting the toes, lifting the kneecaps, drawing the pelvic floor up, drawing the belly in. And then press the hands into the wall, draw the hips away from the wall, and feel your shoulder blades, your scapulae, traveling down the spine and toward each other, creating stability in the shoulder girdle. Not making a little hammock with your back, but making a nice neutral spine here. And if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, I invite you to try that and then to really sense your body, your inner strength from the inside out. What does it feel like to have this level of engagement in the torso? Take one more full round of breath in this wall dog. And then step one foot toward the wall to gently bring yourself out of this pose. Shake out your arms and maybe your legs. All right, and then we'll come to a seat. We can transition ourselves. Oh, well, you're already down, so sorry, I kind of cued that backwards. You can always transition through a forward fold and then come to a seat, but we're there and that's great. So, all right, from here, we're going to sit in staff pose. And so one thing that you might notice right away is, oh, this is a pretty similar physical arrangement to what we just had at the wall and what we had in our half lift. We have our 90-degree angle back at the hips. And the way to make this upright seated posture really stable is the same way we did it in our half lift and in our wall dog. So draw your toes up, which in this case means you flex them toward you. You could even press through the heels, engage your kneecaps, and then feel your quads. You can put your hands on the tops of your thighs. Those are your quadricep muscles. And you can really feel them engage when you just flex the ankles. I think that's just so wonderful to really get that sensation of your own strength. And then imagine your pelvic floor drawing in and up, your navel drawing to the spine. Imagine that zipper movement to strengthen the core muscles. And then if you feel like you're not in a neutral spine, you could lift yourself onto a little blanket. And once you feel you're neutral, let's finish that L shape. So now we're in the same exact shape, right? That we were in at the wall, only in a different plane of movement. And so we're building a neuromuscular memory of what it's like to be in this L shape in your body. How you can assemble your muscles to support this very strong pose. And then the hope is that from this body stability, there will be some pleasant affect that arises, right? That maybe ultimately will translate into a sensation of joy. Maybe not today, but maybe someday. So that you sort of get in touch with your own inner strength, not just in your body, but in your emotions and even in your mind. And by now you might be thinking, how long is she going to have us hold this? So with your next exhalation, release the arms down. You can bring the hands behind you, like so, and lean into them a little bit, and then shake out your legs. We're going to do this one more time. So this time I'll show it from the side so you can maybe get a better sense of what I mean by neutral spine, though by now you probably have caught on to that. You've been coming to my classes for a while. So we want just a very gentle little inward curve here. And if you don't have that, when you sit in staff pose, you can bring a blanket behind you. Or if you have a wedge, you can use a wedge. I don't have mine right now. All right, from here, start by flexing the ankles and the toes. So the lower legs get engaged. And I don't know if you can see on the video, but for me, my heels literally pop up off the floor because it engages my calf muscles so much. And my calf muscles are pretty filled up from a lot of hiking. So it pops my heels away. So if that happens to you, that's perfectly natural. And then draw the kneecaps and feel your quads. From here, draw the pelvic floor up. Draw the navel in. Imagine that little zipping up motion of the belly, and then feel your own strength. And from that strength, exhale the arms up. And then feel that sort of expansiveness, that joyful expansion as you reach your energy up and out. And so this is, of course, part of why we build inner strength, right? So that then we can send something joyful into the world, that we can share that strength, that balance, that stability with other people. It's really what it's all about. 2 more, maybe 3, depending on your breath cycle. Breath here. And then with your next exhalation, lower the arms down to your side. And from here, I invite you to bend the knees. And then hold on to the backs of your thighs. If you had a blanket, you may or may not want it behind you. I'm going to push mine back a little bit. And then open your heart. I think most of you have been in my back bending classes. You could even use the suspender move where you sort of make the heart very open. You could take that little maneuver where you bring the hand to the top of your sternum. And try not to throw your head back, but keep the head in line with the spine. Sometimes we think we can create a bigger back bend by throwing the head back because we have so much mobility. But we lose our integration in our core. So stick with really staying integrated in the core. So for now, with the feet still on the ground, think about drawing the pelvic floor and engage the belly. And you guessed it, right? Once you feel stable, see if you can lift the feet off the ground. And if the legs can move towards straight, maybe they stay right here. That's perfectly great. We're still going for that same 90-degree angle at the hip. We're just in a different plane of movement now, right? We may need to keep the knees bent to have stability. The stability is more important than the expansiveness. And so you can play with this and see if the straight legs are a variation that makes sense for you. And hold. And then release the feet down. Lean forward. Stretch it out. Release for a moment. You let the back round here. Feel this nice counter stretch. And then come back up to your seat. Now, I don't know if I can demo the full pose and talk at the same time. I'll try, but I may fall out, okay? And then you decide how far you want to take this idea of coming into the same shape yet again, but in a different plane of movement. So we start with regular boat pose, legs, the calves are parallel to the ground. We create our open heart, we create our 90-degree angle at the hip joint. Maybe the legs straighten, maybe they don't. That's really completely up to you. I'm going to keep mine lower. And then lift the arms up and overhead in the same way that you had them in your down dog at the wall, to take that same position in a very much more challenging plane of movement here. If you fall out like I did, you can just try again. I need to just reassemble mine. Take 2 more breaths if you can. And release gently to the ground and counter stretch this a little bit. Nice release here Gentle breathing. Maybe dissipating some of the heat that you created in this pose. And then come back to your seat. So a boat pose, right? Now, we still have other ways in which we can make this L shape of stability and integration. So let's see if you can guess in your mind what's next as you come into tabletop. In tabletop, I invite you to have your toes curled under. And then for me, it works really, really well to walk my hands forward, one hand's length for where we're headed next. So just a hair ahead of my shoulders, unlike what we normally do in tabletop. And then move the hips toward your feet. You can press into the floor with your hands to create that movement. And when you're in this almost like it's a variation of child's pose, just a very active variation of it. Draw the pelvic floor in, draw your belly in, create that integration. Then notice your shoulders. Create stability in the shoulder girdle, drawing the scapulae down toward each other. And from there, press into the hands so much that your hips just naturally want to lift. And come into any variation of down dog that is appropriate for you in this moment. And of course, down dog is just yet another example of this L shape, the 90-degree angle at the hips, the stability in the core, and very much a pose where you can check in with your shoulder girdle. If you're making a banana shape here, if you're hyper extending in the shoulders, I'm trying to show this, come out. Lift the shoulders so that they're in line with the hips. Feel the strength in your shoulders by drawing the shoulder blades toward each other and down the back. Imagine that your arms are drawing toward each other. And you can even roll the eyes of the elbows in toward each other a little bit. Not a lot, just to create a little internal rotation and a little bit of adduction in the shoulder joint. And notice how super stable you are. Even here, you can lift your toes. You can lift your kneecaps. You're lifting your pelvic floor. You're drawing your core in. 2 or 3 more breaths. You can always come into child's pose or puppy pose if you need a break. And then with your next out breath, release the knees to the ground. And come to a seat on your feet. So that's how many planes of movement by now for our little L shape? Quite a few, right? I think 4 or 5. We have a couple more to go. Actually, there are many more to go, but we only have time for a couple more. The next one will be at the wall again. It will be like your wall dog, except the hands will be where the feet were, and the feet will be where the hands were. And for that variation, you really need the integration in the shoulder girdle. So just wanted, before we head to the wall, to talk you through that one more time. So right here in your seat, shrug the shoulders up for a moment, and then roll them back and really feel the shoulder blades coming down your back, and then integrate them toward each other on your back. From there, reach your arms forward and then bring them up. And you'll notice that to bring them up, you're going to slightly externally rotate the humerus, the arm bone. That's a really natural and necessary movement for you to be able to bring your arms up. Once you're here, move your arms toward each other. Yeah, beautiful. Wow, I can really see that in the video. That's fantastic. And then turn the eyes of the elbows toward each other for just a little bit of internal rotation. It's almost like you're bringing the thumbs toward each other. Often here we bring the little fingers toward each other, but today we actually go the other way. That's your shoulder movement that you will do when we're upside down. Now, sometimes there's a tendency for the arms to want to buckle out. And if you notice that just seated here in rocks pose, take your strap and put it around your arms. And the strap will keep your elbows from buckling out. So if you have a sense that your elbows might buckle like this when you're bringing weight on them, give yourself the support from a strap like this. So just have the strap available, you may or may not need it. All right, let's head to the wall. Once you're at your wall, the first thing to do is to sit by the wall with your back against the wall. You're there, engage your legs, and then bring the arms up again, just as we did a moment ago in rocks pose. And notice if the backs of your hands reach the wall. If your arms are out here, you're looking at the video, like if your arms are hovering away from the wall, then scoot your bum away from the wall until you can get the backs of the hands to the wall. This is just our way of measuring how open your shoulders are, and that will determine where you place your hands on the floor when we go upside down. So wherever you are, if your hands are at the wall now, then you can bring them down, but don't move your legs, and make a mental note on your mat, or you can use your strap to mark it, where your heels were or are. That's the spot now for your hands. So wherever your heels were, bring your hands there. So now you're kind of in a tabletop again, just with the feet kind of at the wall. Great. And then before you even think about anything like worrying about, oh my gosh, can I really go upside down? It doesn't matter whether you go upside down. Even if you stay here, you're making a beautiful, joyful pose, right? So in this tabletop, really think about, okay, I want my stability in my core. I want my stability in my shoulder girdle. My mind is at ease. I'm going to find a nice focal point on the floor. And then from here, in the same way that we did earlier in down dog, only with a much shorter stance, you're going to press your hips up and back. This is going to be a very short down dog. And then bring one foot to the floor and then the other foot to the floor. Again, a very short down dog, and you can have your knees bent a lot. From here, walk the shoulders above the wrists. So you're coming forward. Kind of, yeah, beautiful, exactly. And then no matter how tempting it will be to move the hands, don't. Integrate the shoulder girdle and then take one of your feet. You'll have a natural foot that will want to step up and bring it on the wall behind you. Then with the other foot, step up and have both feet on the wall behind you. From here, walk your feet down until you notice that they are in line with your hips.
It keeps sliding off the wall.
You're sliding. Yeah, sometimes if the feet are sweaty or the wall is really slippery, that can happen. Then you could put them on top of a cabinet or something. Also, the harder you press into the wall, the less likely your feet are to slide. But if you have a really slick wall, you could try the door.
My closet door.
Yes. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, you must have a really slippery wall, Jeannie. So, you know, on your door, you have
Scared I'm gonna break it.
Yeah, don't, maybe don't try too hard, right? Just play with it and see.
But I'm having a lot of joy.
That looks really nice from what I can see. I can't see your shoulders, but you look really integrated. That looks beautiful. And Jeannie, you can try to step up higher, like bring the leg really high first. Yeah. And then maybe just be there. And if the knees can straighten a little bit, that'll challenge. Well, there you go. Beautiful.
Oh.
That was great. That was great. It's a workout for the shoulders, right?
And the wrists.
Yes. Yep. 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 All right.
Oh.
From there,
I'll just lie around
again later, or you can do it again now if you're really, really keen on trying it again. But congratulations, you just did half handstand. If you are coming up again, if this was fun for you and you felt stable, you could also lift one leg away from the wall so that you're standing on your two arms. You have one leg on the wall and one leg straight up toward the ceiling. And Sharon is showing that beautifully right now. Yeah. Very nice. And then come on down and take a little rest in child's pose just to let your nervous system recalibrate. Yeah, Sharon, thank you for doing the second side. And then press yourself up from child's pose. And then swing your hips to one side, bring your feet out in front of you. From here, you walk yourself down onto your back. One more plane of movement for our L shape. This one will feel like a piece of cake after what you just did. Starting our cool down now. So where can you put your legs here to make an L shape? You got it. Straight up into the air. You can do one leg at a time, or you can do both legs at the same time. Yogi's choice. If you do both legs at the same time, join them together and press them into each other. And then the same engagement, draw the toes toward you, flex the ankles, draw the pelvic floor in. Even here, create stability. And then if you want to go into the full L shape, you can bring the arms up and overhead. And you're once again in the same shape. Maybe here it feels a little more joyful than upside down at the wall. And so enjoy it. And breathe here for a couple of breaths. And notice that even in this much more grounded shape, creating stability in the belly and in the shoulders is helpful to hold the weight of your legs. And then whenever you feel ready, you can first lower one leg down and then the other leg down. And roll yourself to one side to come up. Our final posture is basically the same shape we just made, but we're going to make it restorative. And so I invite you this time to bring your legs up, leaning against the wall. So your mat might still be at the wall from when you were in half handstand. So a nice way to come into this is to actually be at the wall on your side, like this, kind of like a side-lying child's pose. I hope you can see me okay. And And then your right arm comes across, if you're on your left side, your right arm comes across, and as your right arm comes across, it brings the legs with it. And then this time, you don't have to flex the toes, you don't have to engage the legs. You can just relax and release the legs here. You can even let the feet splay apart. In fact, you could even let the legs splay apart if that feels good for you. Any variation is fine, whatever feels good. Your body is so ready for this shape now that it really can relax and release into some variation. And then yogi's choice for the arms too. You could have them in cactus or full post beside you. You could have them up above your head, either stretched out or holding onto your elbows like we do in ragdoll. Or you can have the arms down by your side. And you might try all of those things as you're in this pose for a bit. If your head is uncomfortable on the ground, I should have let you know this sooner. You can, of course, put a pillow or a blanket under your head. And then I invite you to settle into your back here. Grounding once again through your body into the earth. If it feels appropriate for you in this moment, you might even close your eyes and draw your attention inward. Having created stability and ease in the body, you might notice that your energy too can settle. And that a sense of balance is returning to your emotions, your affect. Your level of arousal will slowly and gently recalibrate. And as your body and your breath settle, you might notice that your mind too is becoming more easeful, more stable, more balanced. You are welcome to stay in the legs up the wall shape for the remainder of the class. You can also, if at any point that becomes less than comfortable or stable or relaxing, wiggle yourself backwards into a shavasana position. Or you can roll to one side and bring the legs down and then wiggle into shavasana, however you choose to make the transition. So yogi's choice as to your final relaxation shape. This has been a practice of integrating your physical strength and stability. Practice of challenging your energetic balance. Practice of bringing your mind completely into focus on the activity that was happening in your body and your breath. Becoming mindful of your inner strength at the level of the body, at the level of your energy or emotions, at the level of your mind, is a precursor to finding the Brahma viharas, to finding equanimity, to finding compassion, loving kindness, and joy. It's through our integrity in body, affect, and mind that we become more altruistic, more willing to serve a greater good, a greater purpose, more appreciative of all that we've been given, all the privilege we have, all the supports and resources that are often at our fingertips, unnoticed. It's when you feel stable and balanced in your body, in your breath, and in your mind that you can become present enough to really feel a sense of gratitude, a sense of appreciation, a sense of joy. And from that place of the potential for the experience of joy, I invite you into a few moments of silence. Gently bring your senses back into the outer world, becoming aware of the sounds around you, maybe noticing the air on your skin, making note of any scents or aromas in your environment, maybe even beginning to flutter the eyes open to let in some light. Invite the body to wiggle itself awake. Perhaps take a nice, deep, very conscious, mindful breath. If you are still in legs up the wall, gently begin to bring the knees toward your chest and then roll off to one side, whichever side feels more intuitive. If you were in a full resting posture, also begin the journey to your side. And ultimately make the transition to a seat in the way that seems most fitting to the shape that you ended up in. Once you have found a seat, you might place your palms on your thighs, or you might bring them together at your heart. And I invite you to bow your head to your heart. This is an acknowledgement of your inner wisdom, your inner strength. You're bowing to your own physical strength and stability. You're bowing to your capacity to balance your emotions. You're bowing to an easeful mind. And most of all, you're bowing to a wise heart. A heart that guides you toward equanimity, toward compassion, toward loving kindness, and toward altruistic joy. As always, thank you so much for practicing with me. It really is a pleasure and an honor.